because they're going to go on and off. So, this video is about asking this question. If I'm growing spiritually, how is it that I would see my boundaries changing? This is for the purpose of a nervous system reset to talk about boundaries and spiritual growth. 'Cause everything we're doing is talking about how we grow spiritually, how we use our spiritual life and intentional spiritual movement to help us heal from the narratives and the past experiences that we've had that have kept us stuck. So, my name is Crystal Turner. I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner who's gone holistic because I know to be whole is to be healed. And I am recording from my bed today because I am giving myself a complete rest day, which is an act of self love, believe it or not. All right, so we're going to get started and I'll put my glasses on as needed. So, I'm going to talk about three different levels to spiritual growth and boundaries and how that begins to look different when you're growing spiritually and evolving. And the fact of the matter is, for the whole entire time that we are living and experiencing life, we are growing spiritually. We're having spiritual experiences and we are constantly growing and moving from a spiritual space, even though we're in this physical space. So it's a lifelong process, but we're talking specifically about boundaries and our spiritual growth, how to compare your boundaries and how that speaks to where you are spiritually. So we're going to first start with this first level, and this is talking about your boundaries with other people in your day to day interactions. It could be the people or it could be the systems. So, one of the ways that you can know that or measure our spiritual growth is based on our our ability to over commit ourselves or to over to really to overcommit yourself to a person or a system, a job, or any of those things. And this is why this is important. When we are having boundaries around overcommitting, let's let's talk about what those boundaries look like. And first, let's talk about why in the world would we ever overcommit? Usually, when we're overcommitting to something, it's coming from a place of fear, guilt, or shame. And when we think about fear, guilt, and shame, none of those ways of being are pointing to um, evolution, I think, or growth in where we are spiritually. It may be the lowest level that we're at because, none of those things really speak to our power. Guilt, shame, and fear don't help us. They keep us stuck, they keep us stagnant. Oftentimes, they prevent us from moving in a way that we would more than likely really want to move because we're afraid of the outcomes that can happen, be it the response that the people will give you or the system. For example, your job, if you were to, not overcommit or to have a boundary. It can speak to shame because it is very easy for people and systems to shame us when we're not in a foundation of who we are spiritually. It's a very much a manipulative tool that can be used when we're in a place of having shame, as well as guilt. Guilt doesn't give us any type of advantages. When we move from guilt, we're giving all of our power to someone or something else, and they can pull on that string and cause us to respond from that place of guilt. But there's nothing in guilt that really helps you in terms of your growth. So when we're overcommitting, we're usually overcommitting from this place of fear, guilt, or shame. And when we allow this to happen, it is really that lowest level of our functioning because it's all from a place of desperation. It's all from a place of hoping that you can win over or gain someone's liking to you or respect for you or acceptance or forgiveness. That's what comes from when we're overcommitting and usually overcommitting from this place of guilt, shame, or fear. And what does this cause when you're overcommitting to someone outside of you, someone or something outside of you? it usually turns into resentment. And that resentment definitely is for those other people or those systems, but it also is a resentment toward self. So really think about it. If you were to we've all done it before. You've overcommitted to something, which means you stressed yourself beyond what you really had the capacity to give, which meant you had to sacrifice some other part of something, usually yourself, if it's your rest, if it's your beliefs, if it's your, integrity. Somewhere you had to abandon something that really aligned with your true values to try and commit to someone else. That leads to a resentment toward that person or that thing, but it also and especially leads to a level of inner resentment because you know more than anyone that when you're overcommitting, you are something's being sacrificed, and usually some part of you is being sacrificed when you overcommit. So this is one level of knowing where you are spiritually and based on where your boundaries lie. So if you are overcommitting, you are breaking a boundary to doing something for someone or something outside of you. The second level of spiritual growth and boundaries that I want to talk about is boundaries within yourself. So, an example of this would be that you're with someone who clearly doesn't respect you and they don't treat you like they respect you. They may put you down in front of a group of people or put you down when it's just you and them. This could be a person, this could be a group of people, this could be a system. It could be a job that you are working. Any of these could be a place where you feel disrespected. And there can be a level of where we're at within ourselves with our own boundaries that really dictates our spiritual growth. And so the example is if you are not spiritually evolved, you'll stay in that company. Someone disrespects you and you'll stay. You might laugh along with them. You might you might not say anything. You just may be silent. And oftentimes this is coming from a place of fear. And that's a fear of what will people think? If I have the courage to say something, it could be I don't even know what to say. It could be lacking the value and the confidence to speak up for yourself when someone's clearly disrespecting you. So, on one end, when we're not spiritually evolved, we stay in those connections, we stay in those communities where we don't feel respected. But when there is growth, the fact is we hold a boundary within ourselves for what we will allow. And I say that because the truth of the matter is you can't make another person, you can't make a group of people, you can't make a system or organization respect you. So this is where it's an inner respect that has to come in, an inner boundary. That means that yes, if someone's disrespecting you, you can speak up and say, don't disrespect me. But the truth is they might disrespect you again because the point is you don't have the power to control what someone else does. You have the power to control what you do. And this is where the boundary comes from within. It means that if someone is disrespecting you and you are laying a clear boundary that you're not accepting that disrespect, then that's going to mean that if that system, that person, that group continues to disrespect you, then the question is, what are you going to do to hold a boundary? And that means, does that mean that you stop communicating with them and you commit to that? You don't allow their tactics or their pressure to make you feel like you still have to be connected. You might not have the courage to say, don't disrespect me, but you can have the courage within to distance yourself. And that is a boundary. And when you are growing spiritually, you are learning that you have this ability to disconnect from other people or systems that are not treating you in a way that makes you feel like the person that you should feel like, to feel good, to feel, you know, embraced. If you're feeling disjointed, if you're feeling shunned, then you're able to put a boundary on what you allow This is where your power is. And as a spiritual growing individual, you start to learn that your power is in where you allow yourself to move, where you allow yourself to be, to disconnect and not be concerned about the judgment that comes from someone judging you because you choose not to be in their space. That's a huge indication of a level of growth and maturity and spiritually, because this is about movement. How we move in life is a spiritual act. So if we're moving from a much more of a lowly place, then we'll stay in those connections that really echo this idea that you're not valuable. But when you start to evolve spiritually, you recognize that you do have value and that you are able to determine what you accept based on where you allow yourself to move and where you allow yourself to be in places and spaces. So the real boundary is not in forcing someone to not do something, because that's not where the power is, but the power is in where you're allowing yourself to be and what are your next steps going to be when something happens that feels like it is an energetic pull, or when it feels like it is a boundary violation that's happening to you. And so then the third level of spiritual growth and boundaries that I want to speak to is really allowing yourself to spiritually grow, to truly allow yourself to spiritually grow. And what have I found tends to keep us from growing spiritually oftentimes is the judgment that comes from these man-made structures or people. Let's start with the people. People who may live a certain type of spiritual way. They may have a certain spiritual belief. They may be a part of a certain religion, and it is for them. It is what they truly have faith in. It's truly what they believe in, and they may project those beliefs onto you and may make you feel like this is also what you should believe and how you should live. It could be the people, it could be the systems, it could be the spiritual systems that are around. For example, very structured, organized religions that maybe will make you feel shamed if you are doing something different from what they are saying is the right way to be. So when we are at a place where we're not as evolved, it can be very hard to combat those, because something that really impacts us individually in this human experience is judgment, is the judgment of others, and wanting to be included, because that is part also of the human physical experience, is to have connection. We can point back to years and years ago when, cultures had tribes, because connection is important. So when you're having these human experiences where it's a possibility that the threat that you will be rejected is there, that can feel scary, but that can be the thing that you move by. When you are less spiritually evolved, you can really know that something doesn't feel right to you spiritually in the spaces that you are in, or what the other people around you spiritual beliefs are that they project onto you. You may not really resonate with those, but to speak up about those, or to start to live something different, or even explore something different, can feel really scary because of the fear of the rejection. But when we are at that point where we're evolving spiritually, it means that we do allow ourselves to question what we have always believed, or what we have been made to feel is what we should believe. You then start to question it. And when you start questioning it, a whole door opens on, things that you learn, concepts that you start to explore, different cultural practices, or different spiritual systems that other people have lived by. It could be ancient wisdom, it could be cultural wisdom, it can be metaphysical, it could be universal, it could be different types of wisdom that you never explored because you were told that there was this one way that you were to believe and to live by. And if you didn't, then all the fear, um, projections of fear of what will happen to you were the things that held you back, or at least the judgment that these groups may say, or these people may say have held you back. But the evolution and the spiritual growth comes with recognizing I can ask questions, and you actually should ask questions because that's how you truly get to know something for yourself. It's not a dictatorship. It's not something you were just born into that you go by because you were born into it. It now becomes something that what becomes more meaningful is what you seek out and what resonates with your spirit. And then that becomes the more powerful thing. And the thing about that is that it also becomes more powerful and a continued growth when you don't feel like you have to project what now feels true to you onto other people. It's more about you living what is true for you resonating in what's true for you, because that's going to skyrocket your spiritual growth and maturity because that particular way speaks to you. So that's a really powerful understanding. Is it's not just that you are no longer you're having a boundary around what someone projects onto you in terms of what's allowed for you spiritually, but you also have a boundary on what you project onto people. No matter how strong and how powerful you feel it is to you, you still give a respect to other people if they have a different path, if they have a different way. And if someone wants to learn what you do, then you happily share that. But it's the boundary is on both sides. It's on the side of not allowing someone to project onto you, but then you, as you learn and get amazed and in awe of what you learn, not projecting that onto other people, because you, for whatever reason it is that you would do that. So that's what I'm leaving with you today. Let me know in the comments what you think of this. What does this resonate? Put a heart if this really speaks to you, and then tell me why. And I'll be back probably again this week because I'm behind on my videos to speak more about our spiritual growth and how our spiritual growth impacts our mental health and our well being. I'll see you in the next video.